Hi everyone. As American as apple pie, somebody once said to me. But I'm not sure if apple pie is American or is it British or did it originate in France? Who knows, but I'm making it today. We're going to make a wonderful apple pie with British Cox's apple. At the moment we are picking some fabulous apples. We're also going to make it with some beautiful French dairy butter that we've cut into small cubes. I've got a splash of cinnamon to mix with my peeled and chopped apple. There's a quantity of sieved all-purpose flour. Here we've got some icing sugar or some powdered sugar. Over there I've got a couple of egg yolks from the girls in the garden. And then I've got a couple of tablespoons of milk. So shall we crack on? I'm going to take my butter. Now if you can see, I've cut this into small 1/2-inch cubes maybe. We're going to pop the butter into the flour, the icing sugar into the flour too. I'm using unsalted French dairy butter. Don't forget all the measurements will be in the description below. So when we make pastry by hand, initially we're moving everything around. Once everything's mixed in properly, the next task, and this is where it's essential, the butter is at room temperature. So our objective when rubbing in the butter to the flour is exactly what it sounds like. We are rubbing in. If you look at my thumbs, I'm literally crushing the butter into the flour. Now, what I will say, if the butter isn't soft or at room temperature, then it's going to take you a long time. Lots and lots of people make this with their food processor or their food blender. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, it takes seconds. This way is absolutely acceptable. It's the way that our ancestors were making pastry many, many years ago, before food processors were invented. But my goodness, this is a very, very time consuming way of doing it. And I would say if you are constantly doing it like I'm doing it now, we're looking at a best part of 10 minutes to get this done. So I'm about halfway through. Can you see can we zoom in? Can you see the colour of our crummy mixture? It's slightly creamy in colour. And that's obviously because some of the butter has been worked into the flour. And all those big chunks you see, all these big pieces of butter, we need to get them broken down. So you can well imagine why I suggest you using a food mixer. But I understand that there's an awful lot of people out there that tell me that there's something very satisfying about rubbing the butter into the flour, and I completely accept that. I've been cooking pastry for 40 plus years, so forgive me if I prefer to use a food processor. So I've been at it now for about 10 minutes, and as you can see, pretty much all the lumps have been rubbed into the flour. We've got a lovely breadcrumb like texture, and it doesn't get much more breadcrumby than that. Now we're ready to add our liquid so we can form a nice big chunk of pastry dough. We're going to beat up the 2 egg yolks and our milk. So let's make a little well in the middle, and now we'll just pour in our egg and milk. And all we need to do now is bring everything together to form a pastry dough. And this will take a minute or two, and if at the end of it it's not quite sticking together, we can always add a teaspoon or two of water. So just a teaspoon of water and everything will come together beautifully. We can judge how well it's all come together because look how clean the bowl is. So there's our dough. What I'm going to do now with this sweet dough, I'm going to wrap it up in some cling wrap, plastic wrap, and I'm going to pop it in the fridge for about 45 minutes. So our pastry has been in the fridge. So let's put some flour on our work surface. Okay, I'm sure I might have put too much on, but I'm sure it's okay. And what we need to do now is just to gently roll out the base of our apple pie. Okay, so the thickness of the pastry, I'm looking at about approximately 1/4 inch. We want a reasonably thick top, but I want a thin base. Now the apple pie tin I'm using today, I brushed it generously with butter and then I've sprinkled it with flour and then knocked off the surplus. Now my apple pie tin, it's metal, stainless steel, but it's quite old, but it's one of my favourites. So now roll up the pastry on the rolling pin and then just gently sit it on top of our tin. Okay, hand in the middle, bring up the sides, raise them. As you raise the sides, use your fingers gently and slowly and just move the tin round. I'm going to just gently press down. You can use the rolling pin if you want to. Let's get rid of our surplus pastry, shall we? And now we're just going to gently move that up. Okay. Okay, now the top. I'm going to roll the top before we put the apples in. And the top is going to be a little bit thicker than the base. Keep moving the pastry around. Little sprinkle of flour rather. You can get these amazing devices now to make sure your pastry is rolled out in an even way. But as long as you do it gently and as long as you relax when you're doing it, don't panic, just take your time. And I promise you, I don't think those devices are required. So we've got our pastry top now is a nice thickness, and that's plenty big enough for our apple pie lid. I'm going to move that to one side. I'm going to bring back the pastry base, and now we're going to gently stab the base of the pastry. Let's just give it a few gentle pierces with the fork. So there is our pastry base that we've stabbed. Let's move that to one side now. And here we've got our apples. Okay, I'm going to sprinkle the apples with a heaped tablespoon of cornstarch. That's going to help the pastry base of the pie stay nice and cooked. Or I'm going to rephrase that. That's going to help us prevent having a soggy bottom. In goes the apple. Lots of apple. This apple, as it cooks, will sink, and you'll be surprised how much it sinks. And I'm going to use my hands because we can see how the corn flour has mixed with the juice of the apple. Please refer to the description below for all the measurements and all the different quantities. And if you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. Like, share, comment. We need as many subscribers as possible to help us continue our channel, and we have great fun. Okay, so as I mentioned before, these apples are British Coxes and they're already quite sweet, but I'm just going to add an extra couple of tablespoons of sugar just in case they want it a bit sweeter. And now I've got some sweet cinnamon. How much do we use? I don't want to put too much because I don't want the apple pie to be overpowered. Cox's apples are truly wonderful. So I'm just putting possibly about 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. If you like cinnamon, if you like the flavour, please use 3 or even 4. So we needed 2 egg yolks for the pastry, so I've got some egg white here. Lots and lots of sticky egg white around the side of our pastry. Okay, so let's get our pie lid. Okay, our pie lid goes on, and this is the moment of truth when we work out whether our lid is big enough. And we're just going to be really gentle with this. So we just want to make sure we get our shape absolutely spot on. So just gently press around the outside. And then once we've pressed it around the outside nice and gently, we can then take off our surplus pastry. Okay. I'm going to just trim it slightly outside of the tin because we're going to crimp the outside of the pastry. So just trim around the outside of that apple pie. Absolutely fabulous. I was reminded the other day, we did a video, and I was reminded that I say fabulous a lot. But you know, it is fabulous. So when it comes to crimping the outside of the apple pie, I'm just going to get my 2 thumbs with my 2 index fingers and just push them in together, and we get a very nice traditional crimping pattern on the outside of the apple pie. That is looking okay. We're going to decorate with a couple of leaves in the middle. We're also going to brush liberally with some egg yolk and some sugar. Just going to put a couple of leaves. There's the first one. So all that's left to do now is to brush it with an egg yolk. And I just want to take the opportunity to thank my amazing chickens in the garden for giving me fresh eggs every day. Okay, I'm just going to give it a little sprinkle, a little bit of sugar, which is going to give us a slightly crispy pastry crust on the top of our pie. And there we are. Time for the oven now. And 45 minutes later, our apple pie is golden brown, and the smell in the kitchen is truly fabulous. Traditional baked apple pie made with British Cox's apples. Hey, listen everyone, if you've enjoyed the video, please subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to share, like, or even comment. I'm now going to get stuck into this apple pie with some wonderful, creamy, vanilla, warm custard. I'll see you all very, very soon. How about that then?